Friedel Kenzel arrived in Lancaster in summer 1939, just before the start of the Second World War. She came as a refugee from Prague on the Czech Kinder Transport, organized by British man Nicholas Winton. This scheme helped 669 mainly Jewish children come to Britain to escape the Nazis who had invaded Czechoslovakia.
Friedel was the only child to come to Lancaster. She was 15 and completely alone, leaving behind her parents and younger brother. She was hosted by a young couple in a house on Cromwell Road. The father worked in the languages department of a local oil cloth factory.
Straight away, Friedel started working as a trainee in foreign correspondence, possibly in the same factory. She probably spoke German as well as Czech, but it's unlikely she spoke English when she first arrived.
Friedel also studied secretarial skills. In 1942, 3 years after she arrived, she gained a distinction in shorthand from the Story Institute Technical College in Lancaster.
After this, aged 18 or 19, she moved to London to work as a translator at the BBC. London experienced heavy bombing during the war and would have been a more dangerous place to live than Lancaster.
After the war ended in 1945, Friedel found out what had happened to her parents and brother. In 1942, the same year she moved to London, they were taken from Prague to a concentration camp in Poland, where they were murdered by the Nazis.
In 1947, aged 24, Friedel got British citizenship. Around this time, her homeland, Czechoslovakia, fell under the effective control of the Soviet Union. It was impossible for her to return.
Britain was also still recovering and rebuilding from the war. In 1949, Friedel joined the wave of migrants who left the country during the post-war year to start a new life overseas. At the age of 25, she emigrated to Vancouver in Canada.
Friedel remained in Vancouver for the rest of her life. She married and had 2 children. She died in 2016, aged 92.
80 years later, people are driven to migrate to the UK for similar reasons as Friedel. It is interesting to compare her experience of arriving in Lancaster as a refugee with the experiences of refugees arriving today.
Probably missing family was the first thing that Friedel faced. Leaving them behind and everything she was used to would have been difficult for her. Homesickness, loneliness, and uncertainty are emotional issues that refugees still suffered from today.
There were also many new things around Friedel which were different from her home country, like the buildings, language, and even food. As a refugee, you have to adapt to all these new things. Learning the English language seems the priority as it's key to helping you express your needs, seek support, or find a job.
It's possible that Friedel felt a sense of responsibility to her family to do well in her new country after they had sent her to a safer place. Nowadays, many refugees share the same sense of duty to be successful and productive in their countries of refuge.
Refugees these days are in some ways less isolated than Friedel's time. Wherever you are, you can find at least one person who speaks your language. The UK is more diverse because there has been a lot more migration since the Second World War. There is also more organized support to help with things like housing, English classes, healthcare, and access to work.
Friedel might have exchanged letters with her family in the first years of her arrival. However, that will have later stopped. Today, technology helps refugees to be more connected to their families and country. While that can be helpful in dealing with loneliness, it can also have disadvantages. Through social media, refugees can follow news and know about recent developments in their countries. This can cause ongoing trauma and mean refugees remain in a state of uncertainty, living in limbo between the home country and the new place. It can affect their level of integration and ability to work and achieve success.
When Friedel came to Lancaster, local people were experiencing the direct impact of war. People worried about their sons, brothers, and fathers who were fighting, or they feared being bombed or invaded. This must have helped them to understand and sympathize with Friedel's situation, as they were all affected by the same conflict.
Today, the people of Lancaster are not experiencing conflict in the same way, but there is still uncertainty. We all share global concepts like wars, pandemic, the impact of climate change. Perhaps this concern can help people to sympathize with those arriving here who have added levels of uncertainty.
What hasn't changed across time is the fact that ordinary people are always ready to welcome and support refugees. Most people don't care where you are from or why you are here, but they put themselves in your shoes and do what they can. This helps refugees feel part of a family and community.
It is important for everyone today to hear Friedel's story. It shows how refugees from the past overcame loss and trauma to live successful lives. Her story is very inspiring.